I don't know if they're worth it. I am installing Flarespace and I'm learning a couple of things so far. Of course, I'm learning something every day.
Hey, I'm Issa and I'm learning to convert this van all by myself while traveling out of it as much as possible.
So when I first got my flares, they were only packed in these styrofoam layers, and the one I've already put up actually had a rub mark. It was very dull and you could see it scratched in a few spots just from rubbing on the styrofoam. And I was pretty disappointed because I was gonna do this glossy look, and then I decided to do the bed liner, and it was a moot point, but I wasn't sure how the bed liner would turn out with that rub spot. But since I ended up sanding it, I'm using 1000 grit sandpaper for this, and doing that actually took out the issue of the rub at all. It ended up looking really good with the bed liner. And I had also contacted Flarespace, and they said that it could be buffed out if I wanted. So if you like the gray and you want to do that and you get one that's rubbed, you could buff it out. Kind of bummed though that they didn't come with any protective film like the hatch did, my Arctic Turn windows did, the fan did. And I suppose they don't because most people paint them, but there are going to be a handful of people that don't, so that's my thought. After sanding, I sprayed 4 coats of clear bed liner across them. Super hard to see, but what I've done, this tape is so thick, this is one piece. I shoved it up so it's actually adhering to the inside of the channel here, and then it kind of U's to the inside here, and then it's in here adhering here. So even when I cut through this stamp with the jigsaw, it's still going to have enough tape, and hopefully everything will keep any metal from going into these areas, because that's a real pain to get those fine metal shavings out. Well, here she is, first look. Have to let her cure for many, many more hours. I decided, I've taped off and I basically created what's called a fillet. I added a bit more caulk here because I didn't think I could get the caulking on the inside where I'm supposed to. So this was an extra benefit. It's just going to be a tiny, thin black line. Hoping. Flarespace includes most of the things that you're going to need, except even though I read the directions twice before getting into this, watched multiple videos, including the one by Flarespace, it didn't show this little tube I'm going to need. So I'm waiting for an extendable tube. The flare, there's actually some space between your flare and the van, and to get the caulking gun into this back area, you need a tube, and Flarespace does recommend it in their instructions, and it's like a $6 piece of equipment. I wish that it was included in the kit, or if the instructions had been sent in a PDF when things were getting shipped, I could have maybe read it more thoroughly then. It'd also be nice if their instructions listed specific tools that you're going to need, including that tube, because there's no other way you can reach it. Your fingers don't fit back there. It's interesting. I get why they do it though, because the look of the flares, it extends out. It looks a little bit more streamlined, a little more OEM. Here's the interior of the Flarespace. So when you see a lot of videos and you look at it, it looks like the Flarespace fits perfectly within what is called this stamp, and I'll show you on this side. Basically, this area all around this ring. Those are minor support structures. They're really there to help with reverb, so you don't have to have those. It's okay to cut those out. But basically you're cutting that whole stamp out, and a lot of times you'll put factory windows in there. So it looks like the flare sits evenly directly right within that. And if you look at mine, as messy as it is, it also appears that way. The flare actually extends in a bit more. I don't want to touch any adhesive past the stamp. And even more so if you come over to this side here, almost my fingertip is just touching. So the flare actually, it's all within here. I don't want to touch too much because the adhesive's still drying, the internal adhesive. So the flare actually comes here on the outside. So that's fine, I'll insulate that area and I'll be able to cover it. But it looks deceiving if you look online. It's not a 1-for-1 as far as flare to cutout. It looks nicer on the outside, so the reason they do it, I totally get it, makes sense. But this particular side here, that's why it's so hard. You're supposed to put the caulking, the adhesive, all along this inside edge. And you can see it here. It just, I do a miserable job of it, but the job is done. And you have to get it all the way into there to prevent any pinholes. I cannot get in there. So, tubes are ordered. We'll get that in where I can, but that's why I did the fillet, because I didn't think I could get tubes. But I found out I could, so we'll be very well covered. I am not sure how I feel about Flarespace after all this work that I've put into them. I don't know if they're worth it. I don't know if they're worth it for a solo person. I think time will tell, depending how I sleep. I get why they're the way they are, because the way it looks on the outside. But that inner crevice, one, I think the kit should come with these tubes because it is required. I don't know how else you can get back there and finish putting the adhesive like they recommend. Two, these tubes suck. And also, my fault. Read directions first. But I thought these were pretty self-explanatory, so I cut the tip off, I put it on the caulking tube, it's ready to go. First one blew apart. This tube separated from its own base. And, okay, so I got a second one, I cut it, and I was about to have the same problem. I was just watching it very carefully. This tip comes off, so I think this is actually meant to be more of a cap. And then it has this inner diaphragm, I think it goes to about here. I couldn't just, because I cut the tip off this thinking this was one piece, and I couldn't puncture with my little puncture device that's on the caulking gun through. Then I realized it's a cap, and I took this off. I cut some more off of here, just tried to puncture through. It was a pistol, to say the least. And then to get this thing into that tiny little crevice, and depending on how ambidextrous you are, to get it in through the crack and to angle it along the edge you need while you're holding a caulking gun, and then the pressure, the amount of pressure it takes for you to squeeze your hand is even higher because it's going through a smaller orifice hole. So you're trying to like squeeze all this one-handed pressure, sometimes with your non-dominant hand, depending on where you're getting in. Oh my God. I don't know how professional installers do it, because it's not like you have two people for that. Some people make things look really easy online. Some people are incredibly talented. I'm neither of those people. I hope these were worth it. Good morning. I'm at my mom's house, so I'm staying here for 3 nights total because this Flarespace project is going to end up being about 4 days. So I'm waking up with her coffee cup mugs, which is fun. This is a little piglet, I should say. Tiny but powerful. I actually need that as a motto today. I'm not tiny, but I'm doing it by myself, and so I think I need a little extra power. I took a tumble yesterday, and I'm totally okay. My stool broke, and I was walking down the back of the van, which is, what's that, like 2.5 feet up, I think, so it's not super, super tall. The stool broke as I stepped on it. My feet went out from under me, landed right on my tuchus, and smacked my head on the back bumper as I went down. So a little stunned for a second, but there was a nice neighbor nearby to check on me. So I kind of assumed I'd be waking up today feeling really crappy. And I'm actually feeling pretty good. I got a good night's rest, and by everything I can tell, the first Flarespace installation went fine. The cutting process was really challenging for me, but hopefully I have that figured out today. I'm going to start with the grinder I don't know, it's all a learning process, so we'll see on that. The plan is to get the big flare in today. I'll put the window in on the other flare as well. So I painted it, painted the raw edges, and now I just need to scuff where the actual flare space is going to go. And I should probably dry fit it one more time too. I'm going to dry fit it before I scuff it. They do recommend gaffer's tape, but that's not what I have. Another video actually recommends this tape, so that's what we're getting. To remember, this side is thicker, so you want to think about more tape coming over this bump. The adhesive can get everywhere. It's very unappealing, so I'm just gonna I'm gonna put this whole shirt on, and then I'm going to wipe this down with alcohol, and then I will put the adhesive and we'll move over to there. So with this sealant, they actually recommend, this is the one they sent, there's a few different kinds, but this is the one they sent with the kit. They recommend you, when you cut this tip off, I need to get a sharper blade on here. So I've cut my tip, and you've got that angled mark here, but then I'm gonna cut what they say just a V in here, so more adhesive kind of comes out the top. So something like that. That bending over position, since my little tumble yesterday, is actually very uncomfortable. So bear with me as I struggle through this. I feel super nervous. That was hard. I don't know why I just took my gloves off. I have to clean up that adhesive blip, but I think it's okay. I'm so glad it's in. Now, the real test will be the water test. There is a window installation on Flarespace, has a YouTube on it, but they have you putting the window in the flare space before you put up the flare space, but in the written instructions, which they say to absolutely go by, to only do the written instructions, not what you see on the video, or even the video that they recommend. So who knows, huh? Can you see that? So it's going, this is the way the window is. This is the larger flange. And then this bit, wobbly bit, going on the bottom. So just to do the top one first. They use a drill, and then you're supposed to hand tighten at the end. I'm not going to do that. I'm so confused. This is not going to work either. What is this going into? Oh, does it go in there? I think it's supposed to go in this little channel? Another day, another Flarespace window. Again, instructions are not complete, we'll say. So you have to know your wall thickness. So Flarespace does give you this cutout within its flare. So you have to measure that. So I got 25 millimeters. On the Turn Overland window box that comes with the Flarespace when you order it that way, it says it's, I believe it was 24 to 35. But then on their screws, which one you use is vitally important. So even though it's the windows made for 24 to 34 millimeter thickness, the difference between 24 and 30 and 30 and 34, two different screws. And that makes all the difference if you want your Turn Overland window to actually be sealed and watertight. So I measured it and it looks like it's 25 mils, so I'm going to use the smaller screws. It would just be nice if Flarespace was like, hey, use these screws. The ring doesn't fit. I called Flarespace and they're gonna reach out to somebody else and get back to me to see what I can do. I had to email them some pictures of it not fitting. So, like, how long can you drive after putting the Flarespace in? And it would be super nice if this was also in the instructions or any of the videos. It's not, but they say 36 to 48 hours before you drive. And cure time total is like 7 to 14 days, and at least according to the Seal 105, like the adhesive that it is, up to 21 days. So when you do this project, also consider you can't move for like a week because the time it takes to put your last flare in and all that, plus waiting for the cure time. And if it's your primary vehicle, well, I hope you enjoy being a little bit SOL. Ultimately, Flarespace did not get back to me. I had to reach back out to them a few more times. They eventually said I could take it to an auto body shop, have them make it fit the window like it was supposed to in the first place. They said they would then reimburse me, which at this point, I just had no trust in this brand. I did the best I could and created a dust chamber, protected myself. I have actually a towel over my head here and gloves and extra layers and all that, and just sanded this area away until I could get that inner ring to fit appropriately. Now, I should have test fit the inner ring before I did any of this. All I did was test fit the window. That was my miss, but I did figure if the window fit, the ring would fit. I was so disappointed in this whole thing. During one of my conversations with Flarespace, they were also incredibly rude and said, well, what do you want? Do you just want us to give you some swag or something? That answer was no, absolutely not. I was not going to give free advertisement for a company that was terrible with customer service. I just finished grinding down the flare and installing the window. I already did the water test here. It was all I could do to not lose my mind. This should have been the easiest part of the whole flare because these windows I know pretty well by now. It is incredibly challenging because I had to basically create a dust chamber so that the fiberglass didn't go anywhere else. Of course, it was not impenetrable. I did the best I could. I've changed my clothes because I just wanted to get every bit of potential fiberglass out. Everything's wrapped up in bags and sealed in the garbage. So that was the most annoying part, was taking precautions. I just didn't want to take any chances because it's fiberglass. The good news is it's in. It's watertight. I have no leaks. I have to go test the other side, so I'm going to do that now. I wore my respirator the whole time. I just took it off, so I've got my fun little red bump. I have to take the seal paper off of there, but it looks pretty good. I really like the contrast. And at least it's done. So water test, and then I go inside and I'll check with the flashlight to make sure there's no drips. Okay, just do a quick one first because that's usually when I see the leaks. Now I'm gonna do a long time one. I think tonight I'm gonna have a drink. That seems 100% wrong. Yeah. I'm gonna do some further research here. I need more coffee, I think, before I can make my brain happen. Why standing up hurts so bad?